Well, first, I'm lucky to be alive. I know that. And I felt the prayers. It was just unbelievable, the outpouring of love and support from people all around. And it just lifted me up. It lifted my family up at an incredibly difficult time because, as you said, we didn't know if I was going to make it through that first night, let alone how I was going to recover or if I'd even be able to walk again. And so, a lot of miracles, a lot of heroes as well that day. And, God's been good to me.
And Representative Scalise, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Capitol Police who were there ultimately able to disable the shooter and save lives. This call to defund or dismantle the police, you've got it. You've got an autonomous zone in Seattle, and Senator, we'll get your take on them trying to do the same in Nashville. But when you hear the call for one side of the political spectrum to say the police are bad, we need to get rid of them, how do you deal with that?
Well, it really misses the mark of what we need to do to be making reform, to continue to fight for equality and justice, while at the same time recognizing that every day there are police officers who save lives, who run into the fire in 9/11, who do the heroic things. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the best of what policing is. And as you mentioned, the United States Capitol Police, David Bailey and Crystal Griner are the epitome of what law enforcement officers around this country are like, and the heroism that they display. And they saved over a dozen lives that day in their heroic actions. And you see that play out. Obviously, if they're bad apples, you've got to root out the bad apples, but recognizing that by and large, the lion's share of police officers in this country put on their badge every day and risk their lives to protect us and our communities.
Congressman, one of the things being talked about a lot has been police reform and what that could potentially look like. Senator Tim Scott has taken a leadership role in that area, preparing to introduce the GOP's police reform bill this week. Many aspects to that, one of which is increasing funding for body cams, penalizing those who do not comply with that, a long list that will be unveiled. I've long said that the GOP should take a leadership role on this, make their opinion heard, make their voice heard, and come out strong. If they believe in reform, what does that look like? So what do you expect? First of all, what do you expect in the bill? And secondly, how do you think this will be received by the opposition party?
Look, this shouldn't be something that only one party participates in. I'm glad Tim Scott has actually taken this leadership role prior to George Floyd. This is something that he's been passionate about. I spoke to Tim again a few days ago and been working with a lot of members of Congress. And there's Republicans and Democrats trying to come together to get to a place where we can actually see real reform. This shouldn't be a moment where one party just says, we're going to keep politicizing it and then nothing gets done. That's happened too many times. We have a moment where we can actually make reforms. And look, whether a white person, an African-American person walks out of their door, going to school, whatever they're doing, if they have an encounter with police, it should end the same way. And if it doesn't, that's something we have to look at and we have to see how we can address it. And there are a lot of ideas that have been talked about that have support by people across the spectrum. We ought to be doing that. Again, not making it a divisive debate. It shouldn't be a divisive debate. I think after George Floyd, you saw everybody come together and say that was wrong. And bad cops need to be held accountable like anybody else.